Hello, welcome once again to Off the Shelf Books on Tour. Veronica Andrews, your host, and Mr. John Theo is here. They gave me an ebook. Good story. You've written how many other books? And are they
Total
all,
4.
Are they all ebooks?
No, my publisher, I have a great publisher, Clean Reads Press, and they're basically put out like family-friendly books, no excessive violence, no swearing. Great publisher, but they're a small publishing house, so they put out all the books in ebook first run.
Okay.
So one of my books is in print, another book is in audiobook format, and then they do the first run in ebook, so all of them are ebooks.
I love the audiobooks. There's so many voracious readers as they go on in time, and they lose that, and it's like losing your best friend.
Yeah.
So the audiobooks, go for it. And the other books are Early Missionary Endeavors Among the American Indians?
No.
No. That's a question. Now, is it John Theo Jr.?
Yes.
Okay, so what were the names of the other
So
books?
the first book is The Grotto Under the Tree.
I got that one.
It's a young adult fantasy, similar to the Chronicles of Narnia. It actually takes place in a fictionalized version of Danvers, Mass.
Oh.
At least it starts off that way.
Okay.
My next book is Cape Ann,
Got
which
that one.
takes place on Cape Ann, Massachusetts. Romance, action, adventure, murder mystery. My third book was Mission Trip,
Got that.
Sci-fi dystopian novel, post-apocalyptic novel. And then this book, White Mountains False Flag, is more of a government conspiracy, Tom Clancy-esque novel.
So you said. Now, the title is very similar to the White Apache History Reservation out in Arizona. Did you ever follow that?
No, I did not.
It's a white flag, and they saved the village by putting up white flags on every Indian building, teepee, enclosure.
Really?
So when the bad guys came in, they gave them a break. They established a good communication. Roosevelt stepped in and gave them a school for the Indian children, and the school is still in place today.
I didn't know that.
That's a nice story.
I'll have to check it out.
So it kind of runs along your
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah.
Although we didn't have any Indians running around.
No.
Very handsome, I would imagine, park ranger.
Well, he's about 40 years old, and he is a park ranger in the White Mountains National Forest, New Hampshire. And on its surface, this book is really a love letter to the great state of New Hampshire. I'm a Christian, I'm a libertarian, and they take liberty up there very seriously. You drive over the border, and it's literally live free or die. You see, whether you agree with it or not, you see people without helmets on their motorcycles, firearm stores everywhere, fireworks stores on the side of the road. It's vastly different than here, and and they're very tied to nature up there, and I just love Winnipesaukee. I love the White Mountains, and it was really just a love letter to the state of New Hampshire. And the protagonist, Ransom Donovan, is a park ranger in the White Mountains.
And he loves it as much as you. It's almost your alter ego.
In some way. I always try and avoid vicariously living through my characters, so a lot of times I'll stick a lot of my personality into like a female character or a young child. I see a lot of authors do that, but a lot of his fears and struggles I definitely put into the character as well.
But when they speak to someone who wants to write, they say to write about what you know.
You know, exactly.
And the emotions that you've experienced, and take off on your own experiences. So have you ever flown in a helicopter over a forest and seen bad guys doing bad things?
I have flown in a helicopter over a forest many times. A good friend of mine, who I actually kind of wrote into the book, was a tremendous helicopter pilot. He was my best friend who passed away from cancer. So I wrote this book while he was dying of cancer, and kind of wrote a character into it that was similar to him. And I actually, ironically, met him like a couple doors down at what used to be called Murphy's Fruit Market in Danvers. So it was very cathartic. But yes, to answer your question, I have been up in a helicopter.
Well, but you didn't find any bad guys doing bad things?
No.
And subsequently have to go in on foot and find out that they were really bad guys?
No. No.
So what was your education in writing?
I've been writing for a long time. I got a BS from Salem State in psychology, liberal arts, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I've always been writing throughout that process. Took some correspondence courses after college, continued writing, got some freelance work on the side doing movie reviews for about 5 years, enrolled in an MFA program at Pine Manor College in Boston for my master's in creative writing, and received that a few years ago. And since then, I've been teaching writing at the college level.
Yes, you're a bona fide professor.
Yeah, they call me, yeah. But, so I've been teaching for about 6 years at Endicott College, writing on the college level as well. So
that's got to be good, because that keeps you in tune with the younger generation.
Absolutely.
And their language and their dress and their respect or lack of it.
Yes, yes it does. I have some, and I give the kids pretty much free rein to write about what they know. I ask them to keep it into like a PG-13 level or under, but boy, do they push that. And they're just very creative, and you know, people always say if you want to learn about something, you should teach it. And it just, I feel like it's taken my writing to another level by teaching it to kids.
You do learn so very, very much when you read other. I was asked to assist on teenage suicide conference, and my community had just had an essay contest in which the winners won the mayor's seat for a day and a seat on the city council. So I asked to see the essays because they were on suicide.
Sure.
And I was
blown away.
Yeah, they think about it a lot, but had I not done that, I would not have known what they were thinking and what they felt comfortable enough to write.
Right. Yeah.
So you do learn. In every book I review, even doing an ebook, I learn, you know, and I don't get to choose the books kind of choose me.
Sure.
And every one of them I learned something from, and I'm very grateful for the writers that work so hard to continue my education.
Yes. It's fun. It's fun doing the research. I really enjoy the research for the writing component. I get to geek out on a lot of things, whether it's in this book, you know, trucks and protocols for law enforcement. I even figure out what firearms they would carry, even on search and rescue, the millimeter-sized rope they would use to descend a rock face to find the...
But that's what makes it very real.
Yeah.
And very interesting, and without swear words and terrible sex scenes. That's why I kept on reading, even though it wasn't my forte and it wasn't what I'm accustomed to.
Yeah.
You made me grow up a little bit more. Thanks a lot, John.
Sorry, thank you.
Now, when you write, do you write in a secluded area with longhand or at a computer?
No, I always write on a computer. I love to type. I type like 55 words a minute, and it's just
nobody likes it small.
I don't know. I don't know why. I really like working on a computer. I will take like a notebook with me wherever I go and jot down ideas, but then I'll put it into an outline format. And as the outline gets bigger and bigger and bigger, I'll just cut and paste certain sections of it into the actual body of the story and expand on each outline point. But I do it in, a lot of people need 2 to 3 hours to sit down. I'll do it in half-hour increments. I have other work I do. I have 3 young children.
Yes, I noticed that. And
yeah, sorry if they're ripping up the green room.
I'm like, you're lucky you got a half an hour. I usually only got 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I've had to do it in pretty much half-hour increments, which forces you to concentrate. And a lot of times people will talk to me like, I don't have time to write, and they think they need a 3-hour window, and you don't. Some writers do. Some writers need to sit down for 5 hours, but I'd rather do a little bit each day than just wait a week or a month to have a 3-hour window.
Go off secluded. Yeah. Are you working on another book already? Is there always one in the works?
Yes. I think if writing is like working out, it's a muscle you don't want to atrophy. So I try and write a little bit on, at least 6 days a week. I just submitted to my publisher a sequel to my dystopian sci-fi novel, Mission Trip. And now I'm just, immediately after I did that, I started on what I have in what I've been kind of chipping away at, just a bunch of short stories to see if I can compile them into a novel of short stories and poems. So I'm constantly trying to...
A poet too?
I don't know. We'll see about that. We'll see about that.
You never know until you try.
Yeah. I'm trying to have some breadth to my writing, because poetry is so different than writing young adult fiction, which is so different from adult fiction, which is so different from screenwriting, which is so different from, you know, short stories or flash fiction. It's just, you think you know something, and it's a very humbling career, because you don't really, you think you know something and you don't.
You don't. Which one of the different venues are you most comfortable with?
I like writing young adult. I find that the beauty of young adult fiction is you can address themes that are applicable to both kids and adults. You can focus on something like two kids having a crush on each other, but you can also focus on something intense like the loss of a loved one. Whereas with adult fiction, you can't really have that breadth. You're really just focusing on adult themes. So I find with young adult fiction, you can really have a lot of scope to your writing, and you can touch upon fun things, comical things, romantic things, but also serious things as well.
But you also have to have a little insight into their world in order to grab their attention. And as my 5 were growing up, I found that I wouldn't, thank God they're all very good readers. I would scope out the title of the book and I would read it.
Mm.
And then we had a basis of conversation.
Yes, yeah, you do.
Because you read my book, Mommy? What did you think of that girl? You know, it really gave us an insight into one another.
Sure.
What I felt about the book and the characters and the conclusion and what they felt out. And I think it gave me an avenue of discussion with my kids.
Sure. It's a great way to connect with them.
Right. So all your hard work benefits me. Thanks. Where will you go from here?
I don't know. I mean, most writers can't do this full time, so I work on the side as well. I teach and I do other work as well. So I'll just continue to write and try to just keep going. My goal is not to be rich or famous or anything like that, but it would be great to do this full time. So that would be a goal I kind of work towards. But I'm happy to have been published, happy to be with my publisher. I have a great publisher. I'm trying to expand my writing breadth, as I mentioned. I have a couple screenplays that I have an agent representing it now as well. So I'm trying to dabble in different areas.
Gonna go Hollywood?
I don't know.
Hollywood doesn't like good stories. They like sex and violence and running cars.
Yeah, they do.
But you can, when you reach a certain plateau, you can control it. And you mentioned admiration for Nicholas Sparks, and one of the things I love about that young man is, or maybe 20 years ago, he took his wealth and he established a Christian elementary school.
That's great.
10 years later, he established a Christian middle school and then a high school. And now he's sponsoring international scholarships so that our young people graduating from Christian schools can go to other countries where they will get to know Americans, and those children are coming here to the schools that Nicholas has established. And that's not something you read in the tabloids.
No.
You know,
it's great he's doing that.
Yeah, it isn't a Rolls Royce. You know, I'm not sure he has a Rolex on his arm, but I think that's a great thing to know and to admire as someone who's reached phenomenal success with his writing.
Yeah, it's great to hear that he's giving back.
So what will you do?
Trust me, that would be a great problem to have. I would absolutely. I mean, my wife and I live very frugally, so I don't see us doing anything extravagant, but I would try and do something.
Wouldn't it be fun to have to try and figure it out?
It would be a good problem to have.
Yes.
It would be a good problem to have. I feel like I don't think money holds any power over me, so it'd be great to pay the bills, pay off both my wife and I have grad school loans, but you know, I would definitely give it back in some way, take care of family, friends. Mm-hmm. It'd be a good problem to have. Like I said, it'd be a good problem to have.
A lot of people who win the lottery don't come out happy.
Yeah.
Don't come out happy at all. One of the first winners bought a big house, a big car, the boats, the clothes, and everything. Within 6 months, his wife that had been divorced from him 10 years earlier filed against the money because he'd been married for so long, which froze the money. Well, then he couldn't pay for everything. So he invited his brother-in-law and his sister-in-law to move in and help him. And it just got worse and worse. So they decided to kill the wife, and that would end the problem. Of course, they botched it up, and they both wound up in jail. He lost the house. He lost the car.
You can't make
he
this
wound
up.
up in the curb owing more than $1 million, and he started at the curb.
You can't make that up.
No.
I worked in Cambridge during the dot-com boom of the 90s. I worked in Cambridge for about 10 years. I feel very blessed to have realized...
Thank God you got out of Cambridge.
Yeah. I feel very blessed to have realized at a young age that money doesn't equal happiness. I knew so many people driving their Mercedes and their BMWs, and they're just miserable.
I love it when I'm in traffic right beside a Tesla.
Yeah.
He's not going any faster than I am.
That's true. That's true.
And we're both going to get there at the same time.
So I feel blessed to have realized at a very young age that money doesn't equal happiness. So it's.
But that comes through in your writing too. The important things, the things that really matter in life, came through in your writing.
Good.
And the value of the woman that he loved, the home that he valued beyond belief, his belief in the moon and the stars in the sky and protecting the environment. And the loss of his friends. That speaks highly of you and your